Ms Legalista here, attorney Sheila. Thank you for joining. It is part 2 of the Cuba Gooding story. I'm going to start back over because that was so awful. And why am I not in? Ms. Legalista here, attorney Sheila. Thanks for joining. All right, if you've been following along, then you know Cuba Gooding Jr. settled the lawsuit that had been filed against him. And this was a federal lawsuit. Actually, let me read you what the New York Times says. Cuba Gooding Jr. settles federal lawsuit that accused him of rape. He pleaded guilty last year to a single charge stemming from an allegation of unwanted kissing. The civil trial that was to begin 2 days ago, one day ago, yesterday, it was supposed to happen yesterday, this trial, included the most serious accusation that he faced, and that was this rape allegation. You guys, this is part 2. We're going to hear what he says in his response to her allegations that he raped her. All right, here we go. Jane Doe versus Cuba Gooding Jr. And let me make sure I have everything set up here before we get started. We are good to go. And this actually isn't that long. So this is his answer to the complaint. And the first thing that I want to point out here under the nature of the case is he says defendant right here denies all, and I can't even color it like I want to, you guys. Isn't that so sad? I should have just clicked on the highlighter pen, right? Defendant denies all remaining allegations in paragraph 1 of the complaint. He's saying, no, I didn't do this, okay? But I want to go down to some particular defenses that he talks about here. And if you saw the first video, then you know that I didn't read the complaint before I started the video. In this case, this was a short one. I did actually get a quick look at it, okay? And so I know exactly what it is I want to talk about here. So he's talking about this part about how long she waited to file her complaint. He really says she waited until 6 days shy of 7 years to file her complaint. Plaintiff's decision to wait until 6 days shy of 7 years, they are really making a point of that, to file her complaint has prejudiced defendant insofar as defendant has lost the ability to fully defend himself. Now, he's not saying I can't defend myself, but to fully defend myself. For example, all video recorded evidence, such as from the hotel, restaurant/lounge, bar, vehicle for hire, plaintiff's residence, and New York City poll cams that otherwise would have been available at the Citizen of Torts at the time this action happened, she alleges, and at other key locations, these things are no longer available to him. That's what he is saying. He is saying so much time has passed that all of these things that she alleged in her complaint, them being at the hotel, what happened at the restaurant lounge, the bar, what happened in the vehicle, the cab that took them from the restaurant lounge to the hotel, and any poll cams, she talks about him exiting and going in one door and her exiting and going in another door. They were going in different doors. All of these things would have been able to be confirmed had this been filed sooner, is what he is saying. He says, this is no longer available to me. He says such evidence would have substantially aided the case as much as it would have substantially disproven key aspects of plaintiff's claims. By way of further example, defendant believes that he would have secured multiple witnesses who are no longer available to defendant due to the passage of almost 7 years. Defendant believes that such witnesses would have provided testimony that would have substantially aided defendant's case as much as it would have substantially disproven key aspects of plaintiff's claims. So I'm going to tell you, for those of you who haven't watched the other video, here are some of the key people, not just her friend, but at one point in time, she said a security guard came up to her. Well, who knows where that security guard is now? Who was the driver that was in the cab that picked them up? When they went into the hotel lounge, was there anybody who saw them get on the elevator there together? For instance, a lot of times you have hotel staff there. It could be that they could have seen who was working there that night. So these are key people that he's saying he won't, he will have a hard time getting them. And then it says, in sum, plaintiff's decision to wait almost 7 years to file her complaint has stripped defendant of his right to fully defend himself, as memories have no doubt faded. You guys, just from a personal standpoint, on my side, who can remember that far back? Now, he doesn't actually have to remember back from 2023 because this was filed a couple of years ago, but there was still 7 years. 7 years. Memories have no doubt faded. And it could be that for him, that's the case. I don't know. This is just what he's saying. And documentary and other physical evidence, including that referenced above, and other forms of proof, such as from the NYPD, which, upon information and belief, investigated plaintiff's claims and refused to arrest defendant, is no longer available. So let me just stop here on this one for a second, because I actually think this one is a little bit more important. Because now what you're saying is that, wait, the New York Police Department, they're saying upon information and belief, they believe this happened. The police department investigated these claims and would not arrest him. Now, if somebody's alleging something about someone and the police investigate and they say, oh, well, we're not arresting that person, it does leave you wondering whether or not they thought that there was enough there to arrest this person. Now, there's a whole lot of information missing here about this. We don't know if they did this investigation. We don't know when they did the investigation, So there's a difference between them investigating a couple of nights later because she went to them versus them investigating, at the time that she filed this complaint, because she then said, hey, I want you to go back and investigate this. Well, they're going to have a hard time finding these people too. So we don't know a whole lot about that part of it, but the fact that there may have been this investigation, I think, is a pretty significant concern to both parties. I would want to know. It says the loss of evidence undermines defendant's ability to defend against the allegations in the complaint to such a degree that allowing the lawsuit to proceed would violate defendant's rights under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. So there you have it. And he's got some other defenses here too. The complaint fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. Okay, so everybody always puts that in their answer. That it's barred by the statute of limitations. Fails to state a cause of action. Yeah, so he's got some other defenses in here too. It says defendant asserts that plaintiff has waited an unreasonably long time to file this lawsuit, and defendant's ability to defend this lawsuit has been severely prejudiced due to this unreasonable delay by denying him access to, among other things, documents, other physical evidence, witnesses, and a reasonably fresh recollection of the events giving rise to this lawsuit. Like I said, you know, when we're talking about recollection and memories, we don't expect people to remember everything, but when we wait a long time, it gets really hard to remember and trust what we remember. So yeah, so those are most of his defenses there. All right, yeah, prayer for relief. Okay, so there you have his response to the complaint. Let me know in the comments. This should bring you up to speed. If you are now up to speed and you have a few questions here about what was going on too, if you understand why they now said, let's just settle this and be done, because going to trial just, I mean, can you imagine? I've just gone through the complaint and the answer, and there are a lot of issues here that, you know, are going to be hard to figure out, given that it's now 2023 and this happened so many years ago. So you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.